All right, today we're going to take a deep dive into something that millions of people experience, but so many of us misunderstand: social anxiety disorder.
You know that feeling you get before a big presentation or a first date? That little knot in your stomach? Well, imagine that feeling, but cranked up to a 10 and happening in everyday situations, like just talking to a cashier or being in a group. That's the reality for a lot of people. And it's so much more than just being shy. And get this is not some rare thing we're talking about. The scale is actually pretty staggering. The National Institute of Mental Health says that 12.1% of adults in the US will experience social anxiety disorder at some point in their lives. I mean, think about that for a second. That's more than 1 out of every 10 people. So, to really wrap our heads around this, we gotta be super clear about what it isn't. Let's draw a line in the sand between this clinical disorder and an everyday personality trait like shyness. Okay, so here's the official breakdown. Social anxiety disorder, which is also called social phobia, is this intense, persistent fear of being watched and judged by other people. Now, the two key ingredients here are that it has to last for at least 6 months, and it has to be big enough to really mess with your daily life, your job, your school, your friendships. This comparison right here, it really nails the difference. Getting some butterflies in your stomach before giving a speech? Totally normal. But an intense, overpowering fear that makes you avoid it at all costs or just completely disrupts your life, that's where we cross the line from nervousness into a disorder. It's one thing to have a definition, but it's a whole other thing to understand what it's like to actually live it. So, what does it really feel like for someone who's going through it? I mean, the physical side of it can be completely overwhelming. We're talking about your face turning red, sweating, trembling, your heart just racing out of your chest. Some people even feel sick to their stomach or feel like their mind has just gone totally blank. Your body is basically hitting the panic button, reacting like it's in some kind of real physical danger. And all that physical stuff, it's being driven by what's going on emotionally and behaviorally. There's this deep, intense fear of what other people are thinking, that they'll see you as awkward or dumb. And that fear often leads people to just avoid social situations altogether, or makes it feel almost impossible to speak or even make eye contact. And look, this is so important to understand. This isn't something you can just snap out of. If it goes untreated, that constant stress and strain can lead to really serious problems like depression or substance use issues. And it can really hold a person back from reaching their potential at school or in their career. So that begs the question, right? Why? Where does this even come from? What causes someone to develop social anxiety disorder in the first place? Well, the truth is, it's pretty complex. There's usually not just one single thing to point to. It seems to be a mix of different factors. Genetics can definitely play a role. You often see anxiety disorders run in families. Really stressful life events, like being bullied or going through trauma, can act as a trigger. And some research even suggests that things like overprotective parenting could be a risk factor too. All right, so we've talked about what it is and where it might come from. Now let's get to the most important part of this whole thing. What can we do about it? Because there are clear, effective ways to get help. And I really want you to let this next part sink in because this is the key message of hope here. Social anxiety disorder is treatable. Through things like therapy and sometimes medication, people can and absolutely do overcome their symptoms and get their lives back. So let's break down what those treatments actually look like. First, you've got psychotherapy, or talk therapy, which helps you work on your thoughts and behaviors. Then there's medication. Antidepressants can help dial down the symptoms over the long term. And then there are things called beta blockers, which can be used for specific situations to block the physical symptoms, like a racing heart or shaky hands. Let's zoom in on one of the big ones, CBT, or cognitive behavioral therapy, because it's one of the most effective treatments out there. The whole idea is to help you spot and then challenge those automatic negative thoughts you have about social stuff, like when you just assume everyone is judging you. CBT gives you the tools to start questioning and reframing that thinking, which then changes how you feel and what you do. Professional treatment is absolutely key, but a huge part of recovery also happens day to day. It's about building up skills and confidence in your own life. So, what are some of the practical things that can help? One of the most powerful tools in the toolbox is something called gradual exposure. Now, this isn't about just diving into the deep end and facing your biggest fear. No way. It's a careful, step-by-step process, usually with a therapist guiding you,
to slowly face the situations that scare you. You build positive experiences, and you essentially retrain your brain to realize, hey, I can handle this. And here are a few other strategies that can really make a difference. Taking time to do something relaxing before a social event can help. Reframing your thoughts is huge. Notice that little but powerful switch from saying, I am a shy person to, I acted shy in that situation. And super important, avoiding that trap of using alcohol to numb the anxiety, because that can just make things a whole lot worse in the long run. So, if you take one thing away from all this, let it be this. Social anxiety is real, it's tough, but it is absolutely 100% treatable. Just understanding it, like we've tried to do here, is a massive first step. And that really just leaves us with one final important question. For you, or maybe for someone you care about, what could the next step be?